Welcome to the Undisputed podcast. I'm your host, Jenny Taft. This podcast is the full show from today's episode of Undisputed from start to finish. They've got a busy slate, so skip Shannon. Let's get to it. Good morning. Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Jenny Taft here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp.
Hey, how you doing, Jenny?
It is not a good morning. Thank you very much.
Don't bother me now. You know, I got to pour up, drink, headshot, drink, stand up, drink.
Well, why are you drinking Diet Dew?
Whoa.
Well, wait a second. We didn't even have a bet on last night's game.
We had three on last
We
night.
had no bet. You would not accept it.
Don't do this.
You rejected our bet. There was no bet. No bet.
We had three.
No, I said, let's do 5 cases. You said, no, we'll do 10 on game 7. And I said, okay, give me the points. And you said, no. Why are you holding that up?
We had this many bets on it last night.
Wait a second. What a hypocrite. You were calling for this man's job last night. You wanted him benched before last night's game.
No, I said he should play with...
You wanted him benched.
I said he should play with Cameron Payne.
Oh,
and you see when Cam Payne came in there and pushed that Payne, Skip, you might have another... Would you like some?
Well, you didn't win any.
I'll take some.
Everybody know you bet me 3 cases.
I did not bet you any cases.
Well, this is for me and you, JD.
Okay, please, I'll take some later. Skip, I'm sorry it's not a good morning. You're going to have to sit through this because we have a lot to talk about. And that jersey, Shannon, you might want to put it on. The Suns punched their ticket to the NBA Finals last night with a blowout 130-103 win over the Clippers. Chris Paul led the way for Phoenix with 41 points that included 7 threes plus 8 assists and 0 turnovers. And now the 16-year vet will play for his first NBA title next week. Shannon, how surprised were you by Chris Paul's performance?
Skip, I was very surprised. You and I talked about yesterday in his 3 games that since he'd returned, he had gone 19 of 60 from the floor. He had not played well. He was turning the ball over. He was not very efficient. And he wasn't Chris Paul-like. Now, maybe that COVID had something to do with that.
Maybe.
But I didn't recognize the guy from the previous series because when he basically just took apart the Denver Nuggets. And then in the closeout game, he drops 37 and says, okay, now y'all know why I'm the point guard. And then I look at him, and they played so well without him the first 2 games. Cameron Payne was 29 points, 18 assists, and 0 turnovers. And I'm like, wow. No, he had more points. They had 29 one game. But he had 18 assists and 1 turnover. And I'm like, man, he's really well. And then you get Chris Paul comes back, and he's more methodical than Cameron Payne as far as pushing the pace. And he's not shooting very well because, guess what? The first game, he and Devin Booker, 10 of 40 from the field. They had gotten outplayed by the backcourt of Patrick Beverly and Reggie Jackson. And I'm like, Chris Broussard, I was like, if they continue to play like this, if that backcourt outplays the Suns' backcourt, they're going to be in trouble. And then last night, Skip, that was special. The Clippers cut it down to 7. They reinsert Chris Paul. Chris Paul scores 27 of their next 35 points. Ends the night. So he checks in. They're up 7. He checks out. They're up 24. I know that was... And great players have that ability. And that's what Chris Paul is. Chris Paul is a great player. And I'm finally glad he gets an opportunity to show it on the big stage. Everybody talks about he had a 3-1 lead. He choked that one away when he was at the Clippers. He had a couple of 3-2 leads. He let those get away. Is he going to let another one of these opportunities slip past it? He's like, nah, I'm not going to let this opportunity slip away. I thought they did something very well early, Skip. They got Paul George out of rhythm. They took Mikal Bridges and they says, okay, you follow him man to man. We're going to zone up everywhere else. So now Paul George is like, man, I got to pre-start it. He's like, I wanted the game to come to me, Skip, but no one else could get going like they did the game before. Marcus Smart struggled early, but then he got it going late, which was a little bit too late. Reggie Jackson really never seemed to find his rhythm. And so Pat Bev hit a 3, was dancing, doing his little thing, but everybody knows Pat Bev can't score enough points to beat you. So they was good. As long as they kept Paul George under control and no one else went bonkers, they were going to be fine. But, Skip, I was very, very surprised. Chris Paul is 36. I mean, he's the oldest player to have 35-plus games in consecutive closeout games. Jordan had the record at 33. Chris Paul is 3 years older than Michael Jordan was when he did this. So I don't think people realize just how special of a performance what you saw last night, because he answered every run the Clippers tried to make. Chris Paul answered it with a big 3. He started dancing, Skip. You know, when that mid-range start falling, you're in trouble. because he's going to be able to get to the mid-range. Early in the series, it wasn't falling. But I was very surprised, Skip, considering that he hadn't played well in these playoffs. For him to do that away from home, that's the game I want for the other night. I wouldn't have lost all that due to you.
I am way beyond very surprised. In my career, my lengthy career, I have never, ever witnessed something so unexpected, so shocking, so that cannot be happening before my very eyes as what Chris Paul did, especially in the second half,
yes,
and to your point, late third, all the way through the fourth quarter last night. I didn't see it coming because he seemed like he had become the weakest link on the Suns.
Right.
Again, you were correct yesterday, day before yesterday, campaigning, so to speak, for campaign to get a little more run. Yes, he did play him some with Chris Paul. But to your point, you wanted him to get equal minutes with Chris Paul because Chris Paul was looking a little bit old and a little bit slow. To my eye, when Chris Paul, until last night, tried to shoot a three, he had to kind of put a little oomph in it to just get it to the bucket.
Right.
And he had gone 0 for his last 9 in the 2 previous games from 3 before this happened. He made 7 of 8 threes last night. That's impossible.
Right.
How much would you have bet against him making 7 of 8 after he was 0 for 9 and 2 for 16 for this series in the games that he played?
Right.
When you think back to this playoffs, he banged up his shoulder so badly against your Lakers that he couldn't go for a while.
Right.
He couldn't even shoot it sideways up to the basket, right?
Those 3 games, he weren't very good.
No. And then all of a sudden, in the next big shock, he got COVID. He was vaccinated and he got COVID. I don't know if he had symptoms. I don't know if he got sick.
Right.
I don't know if that weighed him down a little bit when he tried to come back after the first 2 games, which you correctly and aptly kept pointing out. They won without Chris Paul, right?
Yeah.
And he comes back, and it was starting to look like, dare I say, he was becoming a liability in those 3 games. Again, 19 of 60 through those 3 games. That
and he wasn't even his normal defensive self.
3, 4, and 5. 19 of 60. That's 32% from the floor that he was shooting.
Wow.
And at one point, Boogie Cousins just took the ball away from him at half court and went down and scored, right?
Yeah.
When does that happen to the point guard?
Right.
So I'm thinking, man, I don't know about him. If you told me that Devin Booker had scored 50 last night, I'd say, okay, you got me. And you wanted to bet me that he was going to score 40, and what did he wind up with, 22? Okay. He wasn't needed. But my point is, here's the bottom line. After the game, Chris Paul says something on ESPN about, it got so bad that I even needed to get an MRI on my hand. And I'm saying, what MRI? I don't know anything about MRI. And this morning, I read in USA Today, according to them, Chris Paul has torn ligaments in his shooting wrist.
Wow.
Torn ligaments in his shit. That's what they said.
Right.
That's the report in today's USA Today after the MRI of 2 days ago revealed he had torn ligaments. What?
Oh, from the undercut, when Pat Bev undercut him on the 3, or when did he do it?
I don't know.
Oh.
I don't know. That hasn't been specified, but maybe we'll find out more today or tomorrow about that as they come back from celebration. And by the way, speaking of celebration, our friend Lil Wayne was right in the middle of it because he's very close with Chris Paul.
Right.
He's going to join us from his home up in the San Fernando Valley.
Right.
At about 11:30 Eastern to go inside the Chris Paul that he first... Remember, Chris got drafted by New Orleans, and Wayne was just splashing at that point with that Carter 2 maybe in 2005.
Right.
So he was just arriving at the top of the rap game, and he and Chris became close friends, and Wayne went to every game at Staples in this series just to be there for him, sat courtside right across from the Phoenix bench. So we'll get into that.
Right.
And he'll give you more insight into Chris's psyche. But you want to talk about guts last night? The weight of the NBA world, I thought, was on Chris Paul's shoulder because he has a long history of coming up small in playoff games. He's blown a 3-1 lead. He's blown 2-0 leads.
Right.
And all of a sudden, it was starting to look like it was full momentum Clippers. And there are a couple of moments that I'll get into in a minute that looked like last night, here come the Clippers being the Clippers again. And in the end, Chris Paul said no. I don't care if I got torn ligaments. I don't care if I got COVID. I'm not going to let this happen.
Right.
I'm going to the NBA Finals for the first time in my now 16-year NBA career. Well, that's extraordinary. That's impossible. That is greatness. I got to tell you, that's sheer greatness. I genuflect for that one.
But they did, Skip. They did get off to a good start, better than what they did the night before.
That wasn't Chris that got them off to a good start.
But I was still concerned because I watched Pat Bev cross Chris Paul up. I'm like, Patrick Beverly crossed Chris Paul is an all-defensive guy. And you let Pat Bev is not known for handles. I'm like, oh, my God. I said, man, you know what? It just might be, Skip. It might be the Clippers' time.
Okay, so the Suns had jumped out to as much as a 10-point lead early in that game.
Right.
And to your point, here came the Clippers featuring Patrick Beverly. And finally, Reggie Jackson joined the party with an and one. And with 5:35 left in the second quarter, the score got to be 50-all. And I thought, uh-oh. And I don't know what you thought, but I thought
the same thing.
Here they come. And guess who showed up at the party at that point? Somebody that you've been all over. You said we need more from Jay Crowder, the man who got clowned by LeBron James in game, was it 3? Game 3 at Staples.
Up and under.
When he leaned and leaned and then spun all around him and went up and under on him. That same Jay Crowder, in the last 4 games, against the Clippers, he had scored 2 points, 9 points, 3 points, and 4 points. That's an average of 4.5 points a game.
Right.
He was 6 of 24 in the previous 4 games and 4 of 19 from 3. And in games 4 and 5, he was 1 of 10 from 3. And guess what happened? When it got 50-all, Jay Crowder suddenly rips off 13 straight points, and I think we have a tape of these points. This saved the season. It maybe saved Chris's legacy, Chris Paul's, because this is all Jay Crowder. They get the offensive rebound. Ayton does and says, give it back to me. I got this. And that gave him a 3-point lead. And then here we go again, and he's up and under. That was a sweet inbounds play, and now they're up 6. And then here we go again. Jay Crowder makes the free throws, and that puts him up 8. And then with 2:13 left in the half, here we go again. Guess who? From 3. When that went in, I said, oh, my God, because that put him up 9.
I said y'all might be in trouble.
I know. And then here they cut it back again, and he makes one last 3 at the end of the half. That's with 25 seconds left to put them up 9 at half. And even for the Clippers, that felt like a hole too big to climb out of. So they tried to be the Clippers again in the third quarter. And with a minute 43 left in the third, finally Batum strokes a 3 that cut it to 7, which finally felt maybe doable. I still had big doubts, but maybe doable. And Chris Paul took over in ways I'm not sure he's ever taken over.
No.
I don't think he's ever played a greater playoff game than this.
No. I'm not so sure, Skip. This might be his crowning achievement as far as games. Now, he might have had more points or more assists in a game, but a game of this magnitude, Skip, you know there's added significance to a playoff game. And the deeper you go, the more the greater the significance is. And I was like, man, here they come again. They finna do this again. They finna come back, spot them all. The Clippers had this big lead just like the other day, Skip. Remember that Saturday they had this big lead, and they end up getting walked down. And I was like, man, here we go again. But Chris Paul said, no, I'm not going to let this happen on my watch. And big shot after big shot, be it the 3, Skip. He didn't just settle for the 3. When they hugged up on him, he went by people.
And as he told Rachel Nichols after the game, his only thought at that point was, I'm not going to lose. Because he just can't lose. He's lost too much. I've got to do this. Because it is one of those moments where it seems like the stars have aligned. Obviously, he caught the Lakers without AD, right? I mean, LeBron might have been not quite LeBron. And then, for that matter, he caught Denver without Jamal Murray. And then he caught these guys without Kawhi and then Big Zoo, and there's no Serge Ibaka. And so it seemed like you better not lose this one.
You couldn't leave. Now, this would have been basically a death blow to Chris Paul because everything had lined up. You get the Lakers, they're injured. You get the Nuggets, they're injured. You get the Clippers, and they're really injured. But Skip, early in that ball game, that's a small team. And what do? Ayton feasted. Go inside. Punish Marcus Morris. Punish those little dudes inside. I mean, why you trying to shoot jumpers? Don't worry about no jumpers. You got a 7-footer on a 6'9".
Yeah.
Make them pay.
I agree.
They made them pay early. Then all of a sudden, Devin Booker hit a few shots. But I thought getting off, just like the Clippers did 2 nights ago, got off to that fast first quarter, made them play catch up for the rest of the game. The Suns got off to that fast start.
Yeah.
Drake, 36 points in the first quarter. I was all a little concerned, Skip, because Boogie hit that shot off the glass with 3. I was like, you know what? But Chris Paul was special last night. I mean, and to follow that up after what Paul George did just 2 nights earlier, to follow that up and say, you know what, PG? I'm going to do you one better. I'm going to do this in a closeout game.
Yeah, Paul George went 41, 13, and 6.
Yeah.
Okay. And so he said, well, I'll
get you 41. Yeah, I'll see you 41. Now, we didn't expect him to get a whole bunch of rebounds, especially when you got Ayton gobbling up everything underneath. But, Skip, another 8 assists and 0 turnovers.
Yeah.
He was very good with the basketball last night.
Yeah.
And anybody that wanted something could get it.
So, anyway, to finish off what happened when it got cut to 7, if we could just see what Chris Paul started doing. Listen, this is obsessed or possessed.
Right.
This is where you're just out of your mind. They just dared him to shoot that, and he just stroked it like a free throw.
Yeah, you can't leave guys like that. See, that's what I knew he had to go.
That's a left-handed finger roll layup, okay? That's just too good. And then this one, this is Chris Paul, who was 0 for his last 9 in the previous 2 games, just shooting it like it was a free throw. And when he made that one, I said, okay, that's just too good. And he proceeds, to your point, that was 8 points down the stretch. And then he scores 19 in the fourth quarter. And it's like he was just pouring it on because he wanted to take it all back out on Pat Bev and the Clippers.
Right.
And once upon a time, he was a Clipper, obviously. And he knows Billy Crystal, who's sitting courtside.
Yeah, gave him a hug after the game.
Gave him a hug. And he knows all the personnel around the arena.
Right.
So it's his home away from home. So all that, it was perfect for him to finish it off there in that building.
Because he spent 6 years there, because he spent 2 in Houston, that's 8, 1 now with OKC, that's 9, 1 here, 10. So he spent, Skip, as many years as he did in New Orleans. So sure, he's very familiar. But this was a special performance. I didn't see it coming, Skip. Now, I knew he had this in him because we had just saw him go for 37 against the Nuggets. But he had played well throughout the entire series against the Nuggets. That's why they swept him.
That is
Considering he hadn't played well in the 3 games since he'd been back, I'd have been there. I'll guarantee you, no one saw this coming from Chris Paul. Not this type of performance. If somebody said, okay, he might get us 25, 28, they win the ball game because a book gives you 25 to 30. DeAndre Ayton's going to do what he's been doing. Okay, but Skip, 41 on 16 to 24. The dude went 10. He and D Book went 10 or 40, and then they went 12 or 14 or 44, 12 or 44. So it wasn't like he'd been shooting good this entire series because he had not. Last night was a special performance, and we've seen, Skip, I know the injuries have kind of dampened the playoffs a little bit, and all the big names hadn't been there. But we've seen some very special performances.
Have we?
This playoff. We saw Dame drop 55 in a loss. We saw what KD did. We've seen what Giannis has done. We've Chris Paul, Devin Booker. There have been some Kawhi, Paul George, Donovan Mitchell. There have been some very, very special performances in these playoffs.
Okay, so final analysis, final thought on my Los Angeles Clippers. I do agree with Ty Lue, who said we just ran out of gas. But the main guy who ran out of gas was the main guy, and that's Paul George. And he was not, I'm not going to say he was pandemic P last night. He just wasn't playoff P. I believe he was resting on his laurels for that game we just talked about, which was the previous game of 41, 13, and 6. He did come into this game having played 130 more playoff minutes than any other player in the playoffs. 150 more minutes than anybody on his own team, who was Reggie Jackson. And I thought from the start last night, he was playing in slow motion. To your point, they doubled him a lot more because they went sort of boxing one on him. And they would always have somebody dogging him, and then there'd be somebody shadowing from this side or that. But I thought he was just dribbling himself into oblivion because he didn't have enough burst left to just split the double team and get into the lane like he was in the previous game. So I think he thought in his heart of hearts, I've done enough here. I'll just do the best I can tonight, which obviously, as he said, my good wasn't enough. Well, no, it's not good.
No.
Your numbers are, can we say they're good? I guess you could say they're decent.
No, they're not, Skip.
21 and
but Skip, he only hit 2 more shots than he had turnovers.
21 and 9, okay? And he became a turnover machine slowly but surely through these last 3 games.
Yes.
Okay?
And that was the thing, Skip. Look, Paul George, like most of these professional basketball players, are rhythm guys. So what you try to do is disrupt their rhythm early and then make them question themselves late. Well, if you let Paul George, you let anybody get a rhythm, once that happens, it doesn't matter what you throw at them.
I agree.
They've seen the ball go in the basket a couple of times.
So to me, I didn't see Paul George shoot one shot last night like he meant it, like he believed it was going in.
It seemed like he was shooting hoping it goes in.
I agree. And Chris Paul was shooting every shot like he knew it or he was going to will it.
Yeah, he was bullseye. He's like, yeah, that was good.
Okay, that's good. Like I'm going to force it through the hoop. Like I'm going to, just, on sheer will. Okay, so in the end, I do congratulate the Clippers on a great run without Kawhi Leonard because they didn't have their best player.
Yeah, look, and that's what... Sometimes it's what happens. If you look at a lot of runs, it happens when injuries befall the other team, and that's throughout history. So this is not. I'm not putting an. If the Suns win the title, I'm not putting an asterisk by. Well, they dodged a bullet with the Lakers. They were hurt, and they dodged a bullet with the Nuggets because Jamal Murray. They dodged a bullet with no Kawhi and no Zubas and Serge Ibaka. I don't want to hear that because that's happened over the course of time. You go back and look. Somebody's got hurt. Kawhi won a title. Because Clay and KD.
You're right.
Steph's first title.
He also won a title because Embiid was sick and hurt and sick and hurt and sick and hurt, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Steph and Clay. Because Kyrie and Kevin Love. It happens. Well.
It happens. But in the end, I want to congratulate Chris Paul on a virtuoso of an all-time performance.
The Valley. We're in the Valley. Valley, Skip. Playoff P, Master P, Suns in 6.
You're already making the call?
Do you realize what a hypocrite you look like holding up that jersey?
No, what I do now?
You wanted his minutes diminished.
No. I wanted, but when Campaign came in there and pushed that pace, what happened, Skip?
Yeah.
You saw it. You saw what happened.
No mercy.
Let's dig a little deeper into Paul George's performance. He couldn't muster up another big-time game last night as the Clippers were eliminated with the 130-103 loss. PG only scored 21 points, including just 1 of 6 from 3 to go along with 4 turnovers. And his plus-minus of -25 was the lowest on the team. After the game, George was disappointed, but told reporters, I wasn't out to prove nothing to nobody, but to show up as a leader for this team and to put us in position to get to where we got to. So, Shannon, how much did PG prove to you during this playoff run, if anything?
Nothing. I thought he was a great player. I thought that what he did was reminiscent of the way he played, Skip, when he was in Indiana, when he was going against a much more talented team in the Miami Heat, and he was really the only guy. He had Roy Hibbert, he had Danny Granger. I think that was he was on his last legs. I think they had Lance back then, Skip. But when I look at it, Skip, I view him the same way. He played well. There are some games that he didn't play well throughout the playoffs because I thought he got carried a lot in that the Dallas Mavericks series. He didn't shoot the ball with a great percentage. He wasn't very efficient in the Mavs series. He wasn't very efficient in the Utah series. But some guys gave historic performance. You got Terrence Mann. Kawhi had series. Pat Bev had series. You got guys that came along. And then once Kawhi went out, Paul George is used to being a solo artist. It wasn't like this was unfamiliar territory to him, Skip, because that's what he was in Indiana. So he just did what he knows how to do. So I don't lose anything for Paul. I still think he's a phenomenal player. But this notion that the name that he gave himself is that we expected him to do what he did the other night. Maybe not to that degree, Skip, but on a regular occurrence. But it's not easy. And when you see these superstars and you see the Kevin Durant's and you see the LeBrons and you see these guys and they do this game in and game out, you have to have a healthy level of respect. See, people take it for granted. Because when LeBron do, that ain't nothing. He's supposed to do it. Okay, he's supposed to do it. But when you see these guys not only do it for 3-4 games, Skip, do it over the entire playoffs, now you have a great appreciation. And you want to tell me about, he wore down. Let me tell you something about wearing down. LeBron James in 2013 playoffs played 960 minutes. That was 178 more minutes than the second most player on his own team, LeBron James. That was 180 more than Paul George. So, and he gave you that. Let me tell you what he did. He won the championship. He won Finals MVP. He led the playoffs in points, assists, steals, and plus minus and win shares. That's what he did. So if you want to be legendary, you don't use minutes. And he played more minutes than Reggie Jackson, way more minutes than Devin Booker. Because we've seen a guy do it and still give you that virtuoso. Rested down the stretch, you load managed him. Goat didn't load manage. Gave you MVP. Don't worry about it. I told you we saved that boat. We were going fishing. I said, hold on. Just wait. I said, Doc, I understand. I paid for this. That's the one thing about a charter. You charter a flight or you charter a fishing boat, they leave when you want to leave.
That was a long wait.
Yeah, they got that. I got plenty of money. I say, I got a couple of friends that's coming. They on their way. Do they know we're waiting for them? I said, yeah. I told them I'll wait. I said, I'll give them 2 weeks.
All I got to say is your respect for Paul George must have skyrocketed through these playoffs because you continually put him in the same sentence, the same debate with LeBron James. That's impressive.
No, you told me superstars, and you say superstars get judged accordingly, okay? You told me yesterday Paul George was a superstar, and the performance that
I did not say he was a superstar.
What
I've never said that.
Complimentary superstar?
Yeah.
Okay, but you said that was very LeBron-esque.
Yep.
Very LeBron-esque.
I said he has LeBron-esque ability, and I think you would agree.
Whoa, what they got to do with it? There are a lot of guys that got LeBron-esque ability, but can you put it when it come time when he throw it up in the air? What can you do?
By the way, speaking of LeBron James, I got to figure he was not just sipping a glass of wine. He might have had the whole bottle because he got the clippers out of his hair. Can you imagine having to open that, what is that, Space Jam ripoff that he did?
Well,
Can you imagine having to open that with the Clippers in the finals?
We'll never have to worry about that. I mean, think about what you're saying, Skip. Think about what you just say. That I want you to say that slowly.
LeBron James.
No. Clippers and finals. That's an oxymoron. That's like jumbo shrimp. That's like quiet riot.
Yeah.
Some things just don't go together. They social distance again from the trophy.
Well, two things that do go together are Paul George and LeBron James because you keep putting them together, and I appreciate that. So what did Paul George prove to me through these playoffs? That he has better control of his emotions than he did in the bubble. I think he learned a lot this year from Ty Lue, that he grew up a little bit and he toughened up a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. Where he was at the height of his talent through this playoff run. He may start to go on to the downside because he's been in this league a long time now, and he's been through as we know, a career-threatening knee injury.
Yeah.
And 2 shoulder surgeries going into...
broke his leg,
Yes, he did. But the point is, all he did for this playoff run was go 27, 10, and 5. Well, that doesn't grow on Palmdale palm trees. He's from Palmdale, right up the road here from L.A.
Right.
And all he did without Kawhi Leonard, once Kawhi was lost after Game 4 of the Utah series. So he played 5-6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 without Kawhi. He averaged 30, 11, and 6. That'll work. That's big-time numbers. That's the kind of numbers that are rare for anybody to. When you do that, you have big time ability. This is a playoff run, and obviously games 5 and 6 he was terrific in, and then he had He had the one night in Game 5 against Phoenix where you said, "Wow."
Right.
Here's the problem. Against Phoenix in this series, he shot worse and worse from 3. If we go games 2 through 6 versus Phoenix, he was 9 of 40 from 3. That's 23%. For a guy who in the regular season this year, he shot 41% from 3. And from the free throw line, he shot only 75% in games 2 through 6 against Phoenix in this series.
Right.
Well, he shot 87% from the free throw line during the regular season. So something wasn't working.
Right.
And to me, there's still the three-point shooting. It's just clutchness. It's overall clutchness where if you'd made just a few, you shot 23, again, 9 of 40, 23%. Well, what
maybe
if
33% is a different outcome.
Hey, it's a different outcome. Seriously. If you made, instead of 9 of 40, what if you made 15 of 40?
Right.
That's not too much to ask.
Right.
It changes a lot of things. And when they needed him to make big threes, he wasn't always there to make that big 3. So I was, as much as I was encouraged by is sort of growing up, I was discouraged by that guy in those big moments.
Right.
And could we see what he said last night after that game as he put it in perspective, what happened to him last night?
I came up short again. I'm proud of what we did as a team. I wasn't out to prove nothing to nobody, but to show up as a leader for this team, put us in position to get to where we got to. Again, came up short. My good wasn't enough, but there's room for improvement, which is what I try to continue to push the envelope to get better going into this summer.
Okay, what I didn't want to hear was, I came up short again. It's impressive that you're going to own that.
Right.
But it doesn't seem to bother him all that much. It came across to me like I did what I often do. I came
like
up short
Jackson.
again.
I like Reggie Jackson, the raw emotion of Reggie Jackson crying. Skip, when you put so much into something and you come up short, trust me, as an ex-professional athlete that trained as hard as I trained and ate the way I ate, when we lost and it was over, it hurt.
It still hurts.
Yes.
You still talk about the Jacksonville game.
Man, it hurts. Because I'm like, all that work for nothing. That's my mindset.
What was the Jacksonville perspective? What was
they were on their second year in the expansion, Skip.
Okay, and you had gone in the regular season.
We were 13-3.
13-3.
And we had backed it off because we had clinched so early.
Yep.
So Mike was like, okay, we're going to play these guys.
So this is your first playoff game, and it's at Denver.
At Denver, divisional round.
And Mark Brunell comes in there and does
threw
what?
a party on us.
He threw a party.
Threw a party on us.
Yep.
I still ain't got over that. As great as the 3 Super Bowl victories felt, it still doesn't measure to the pain that I felt losing that game. And it's never going to go away. So I want, look, each guy handle things, people handle losses differently. Loss of a loved one, loss of a family member, people handle that differently. But boy, when you lose and you pour everything you got into it, man, it hurt. But Skip, what I didn't like from Paul George, bro, you got 6 points in the first half. You got 4 of your teammates. They got more points than you in the first half. Go down swinging. I don't care if you 8 or 40. I want you going down swinging.
Yep.
And I don't think he went down swinging. He was like, you know what? I ain't got it. Let me see if somebody... No, I don't want that from you, Paul George. Boogie Cousins just told us the other day, Skip, he's one of the most special guys to ever lace up these shoes. Special guys go down swinging.
I agree.
They don't go out
I think
weakly.
Boogie's talking in talent.
Yeah.
He's 6'8", he's long, he can defend, he'll lead the league in steals.
Yes.
He can score 30 a game in the playoffs.
What am I supposed to do with 6 points in the first half, though? And the game doesn't close that game, Skip.
Right. And but as you said, they were doubling him because they were boxing one with the shadow. And yet, he just looked lifeless to me. And I believe, deep down, heart of hearts, he was thinking, I did that in Game 5.
Right.
I went 41-13-6,
Right.
and I won a game at Phoenix.
But no one
good.
expected.
I'm good. Like it doesn't really matter what I do tonight. So he's not going to reach down the way Chris Paul reached down and said, I'm just going to refuse to lose this game.
Right.
Paul did not reach down and say, I will not walk off this court having lost this game.
Yeah. It's but like I said, Skip, Paul George is he that's what this, because you see it and you've seen it over the course of these playoffs, you realize like, PG, you got that in you. Bro, why don't you give me that on a regular occurrence?
He's got it in him.
Why can't I see this on a regular occurrence?
Yep.
Why must you go missing? And I guess, Skip, you look, when you're the second best player on your team, because clearly Kawhi is the best player on that team, and you have to defer, and it takes a lot. And so now maybe he's like, you know what, I'll still defer, but I don't need to defer nearly as much. Now, it's going to be hard for them to bring Reggie Jackson back if Kawhi resigns, because somebody's going to pay Reggie Jackson 10, 12, 15
Maybe
million a year.
more, yeah.
Yeah. So now that's going to be more shots for Paul George and Kawhi. If Kawhi returns, we do know Paul George is fine.
He's one guy I don't guess with.
Yeah, Skip. I ain't putting.
I was impressed. Kawhi actually came down out of the box and sat with the team last night. That's a positive sign.
Yes.
Okay.
But, you can't hear rumblings that his team is upset with the Clippers medical team and all this.
Yep.
I was like, man, I've heard this before about him being upset with somebody's medical team.
True.
And that didn't end well.
True.
That didn't end well. So
not in San Antonio.
No.
So, in the end, Paul George probably is sleeping well. He's probably still asleep because he feels like he gave all he could give.
So, did it change anything for you about Paul George? You still think of him as a complimentary superstar? Or you say, you know what?
Complimentary superstar, but I think he grew some backbone this year that he did not have in the bubble.
Okay.
Okay, well, there you go. Well, we need to talk about his teammate here, Patrick Beverly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts here. He was ejected in the fourth quarter of the Suns' closeout win last night. The Clippers guard was seemingly frustrated with something Chris Paul said after he drilled a deep three with 6 minutes left to give Phoenix a 26-point lead. And Beverly proceeded to shove CP3 in the back as the two teams were heading to their benches. Thank goodness he wasn't injured here. Shannon, what was this about?
Skip, what is this about?
What is this about?
Oh, Pat, hold on, Skip. I know this is not the same guy that undercut Chris Paul. Chris Paul bounced like a rubber ball on the floor, and he get up and mark it. This is not the same Pat Bev that crossed Chris Paul over in the second quarter and stared him down. That ain't that Pat Bev. I know that wouldn't be him. Chris Paul hits a jumper in his eyes, got it going, and you shove the man, Skip, you can really hurt because you relax. You're not paying attention. What if Chris Paul suffers an injury, a ligament in his knee or something? Why would you do that? Pat Bev, that guy. What about the Pat Bev that was laughing at Dame Lillard? I told you, he always has been, he always will be a front runner. When things are going well for Pat Bev, he want to key in everybody's face. He want everybody to see me. He getting the crowd up. Get out of here. He doing all this. Now Chris Paul got the upper hand, and you shoved the man. Nah, get on up out of here. Get your butt out of here. Skip, that's weak sauce. That's a punk move. That's a bull jive move. And then Mark Davis gonna talk about, I got it. Could have been one of my teammates you shoved like that. Especially, not that guy. Now, you might be able to shove one of them other guys and I won't shove you back. But I'm gonna steal on you, my guy. If that had been John Elway and the guy just shoved him, guess what? I get you back. Because you don't believe it? Got cheap shot TD in the Kansas City game Monday night. I got him back. Got fined for it, too. I explained to the head official what happened. They rescinded the fine. But you don't do that. You see, he always doing something. Now, just like he could have hurt him when he undercut him the other night, he could have hurt this man. Because Chris Paul just walking by. Chris Paul, I don't know what he said on the jumper. Maybe he said that thing wet. Gotcha. I don't know. But
I think he said a whole lot more than that.
All I know is that when he walked by, he didn't say anything. And then all of a sudden, Pat Bev gonna shove the man. No. This is the same Pat Bev. You remember a couple of years ago they signed him. He tweeted Steph Curry saying, it's my time. Steph Curry tweeted him back like, bro, you 31. What you mean it's your time the next 5 years? Don't do that, Pat Bev. That's so weak. Skip, that was a punk move. Straight up punk move. Anybody, any Clipper fans or any Pat Bev fan that says that was not a punk move is full of it. And you know what you're full of. That's a bull jive move.
So, question. Why didn't any of Chris Paul's teammates want to fight Patrick Beverly at that moment?
I don't know. But so what they gonna do? So because here's the thing, Chris Paul like, I got him. See, that's when you know you got some skill. When you can get somebody to act out of character, you got it. Chris Paul said, I got him talk, but that ain't good enough. Skip, don't do that. Why would you just skip the game's over? Just go ahead and when you were talking, when you was doing all that chirping, nobody shoved you. Nobody's ever done a dirty. He borderline dirty because the move that he did on Russ. Remember what he did to Russ? Russ was calling the timeout, and he clipped him. Russ really hadn't been the same since.
I agree.
So he's right on that edge. And sometimes
it was borderline.
Yes, and sometimes
it's like an unwritten rule. If a man's trying to call timeout with the ball under his arm, don't try to snake the ball out of his hand. Don't put him in harm's way.
But no, Pat Bev, why you do that, bro? That was unnecessary. You could have injured this man.
Here's why I believe none of the Suns rushed to Chris Paul's defense. Because they all knew that Chris Paul was giving it to Pat Bev just as much as Pat Bev was giving it back to Chris Paul. Chris Paul will talk some serious below-the-belt sort of trash, right? And I do not have any doubts that he had said something to Patrick Beverly moments before that you would consider fighting words, especially out in the street, okay? They weren't out in the street. They were at the end of a conference finals game, and there was still, 5.5 minutes left in the game. It was clearly way, way over because of Chris Paul. And Patrick Beverly finally said, the game is over, all is lost, and I can't stand this, you know what.
Right, exactly.
And so I'm just going to go give him one big last shove in his back because it can't hurt my team any more than we're already hurt because we're done, right?
Right.
So to your point, it's low class, it's just everything's wrong about it. But I believe Patrick Beverly felt great about it because he got something out of his system that he wanted to get out on a guy whose reputation is no better. In fact, I can make a case it's even worse than his reputation because Chris Paul has a long history in this league, as great a player as he is. And I beheld his greatness last night. But remember, he has a long and bloody history for cheap-shotting players. I called up a bunch of headlines this morning, and every headline, watch Chris Paul nail Kevin Durant with a total cheap shot. Julius Hodge trolls Chris Paul. Remember, Julius Hodge, he hit him way below the belt in an ACC tournament game. And then Chris Paul gets ejected from Clippers-Grizzlies Game 6 because he hit Gasol below the belt while he was standing at the free throw line. Then there was Chris Kaman shoves Chris Paul off at another groin shot. You know, I can do one after another. It's just who he is. He's a little pit bull who wants to win so badly, he loses it sometimes and just goes completely over the edge.
You saw Boogie Cousins say, that's why nobody like your weak you-know-what.
That's what he was trying to tell him because can we see that play? Again, Chris made the nice play to score the basketball, and then I thought this was borderline cheap here. So this was
the
one. Yeah, this nice, sweet little finger roll, and then he kind of goes up under and sort of accidentally bumps into Boogie, who was just trying to get the ball out of bounds, and all of a sudden DeMarcus Cousins gets called for a technical foul, and again, Chris Paul is one of the all-time great flop artists in the history of this league. So is Patrick Beverly. But they live by the flop because they've gotten a lot of calls via the flop. Okay? So here's DeMarcus. He's like me again. You know, like you're... He got me. But he got you good because he set you up for that.
But I think that the biggest thing was why they didn't react is that they have more games to come. And the last thing you need, Skip, is to get suspended. Because remember what happened to Phoenix before?
I know, and
Monty Starr came up.
I know. I got it. Monty Williams has taught him all year. You got to keep your poise.
That's what he says. Poise.
I got it. I got it. But there's some moment when Shannon Sharp says, "Okay, that's over the line. I don't care what happens. You're going to hear this."
We've been talking the whole. Okay, once we start talking, Skip, we talking. Okay, you saying things, I'm saying things. Okay, how nasty we gonna get it? And you go, okay, if that's where we going, that's where we going.
There are rules and then there are broken rules.
Okay, once you
what did you always tell me about your trash talk? You just can't go personal.
Right. No, I'm not. You know, I'm not gonna talk about your wife or your kids or anything like that. But I'm gonna talk about your punk. You know what? Okay. So it's gonna be me and you. Your wife ain't got nothing to do with it. Your girlfriend ain't got nothing to do with it. Well, maybe. But anyway, wife and girlfriend are two different things.
But I ain't talking about you know there are certain lines you don't cross.
I ain't talking about nobody's mom
I
or
just
grandma.
believe Chris Paul crossed some line with Patrick Beverly, and you can say he deserved to cross the line.
It's hard for me to believe that in Patrick Beverly, the way he's played, the way he's had to grind to get to where he is, he hasn't stepped over the line as far as trash talking. It's hard for me to believe that because I believe he stepped over the line in some occasions in the way he plays the game.
Okay, I agree. Now, the incident at Phoenix in Game 5, I just thought Patrick Beverly was fighting over a pick, which was actually a moving screen by Ayton in which he was bumping into Patrick. I did not think he intentionally rammed into Chris Paul.
No, he didn't, Skip. Chris Paul was trying to draw a charge. But what happened is that Pat Bev fought up under the screen, but he ended up clipping him. He did clip him.
Okay,
he didn't mean to do it.
I don't think he was even trying to clip him, and Chris Paul went down like he was shot.
Skip, the man's up in the air. So what was he supposed to do?
Because he's jumping into him trying to draw a foul call. And by the way, Chris Paul came down hard on his butt, man. That was a...
But this is the thing right here. Okay, now he's doing that.
Okay, this is what he does.
Okay.
Because he does believe he's a flopper. And so in front of the Phoenix fans and in front of the Phoenix team, he's just clowning him.
Yeah.
Well, who would dare to do that to the point guard?
Right.
Well, only Pat Bev.
But see, the thing was, he winning. He's front running. Everything's okay. But the moment somebody else get a hammer, he wants you to handle him. Hey, it's glass, handle with care. Do not break. Nah, bro. I'm going to give you everything plus more than what you gave me. I remember when you, Skip, he crossed Chris Paul over. Can we see this? Jim, do we have the video when he crossed Chris Paul over in the second quarter?
It was something, man.
Look at this. This is what he does. Woo! Look at him dance. Look at like Steph Curry and Dame Lillard. Look at him get to the basket. Now look what he does. Look at him.
Yeah.
He said something.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Paul ain't shoving.
Shannon Sharp would have said something
Look
too.
at this. Look at this. Look at him.
Yep.
Oh,
Well, he deserved to.
Oh, now.
Okay.
You all key. You was skinning and grinning just a minute ago. Oh, boy. Now, see what happens, Skip? Just imagine you went hunting and a lion had a gun or an elephant had a gun while you hunting him. He hunting you. You see what happened, Bam?
Yep.
Hell, you over there just cheesing in Chris Paul's face. Chris Paul said, pap.
Yep.
And now look at him. Now you want to shove the man.
Okay, I do not condone the shove, but I believe that Patrick Beverly was immensely satisfied by shoving him
I
in the
believe
back.
Pat Bev deserved it. Whatever Chris Paul say, he deserved it. I don't even know what Chris Paul say, but he deserved it.
You could argue that because I think they were both giving and taking, like way below the belt.
There's no greater feeling. There's no greater feeling, Skip, because I've been able to do that. I've been able to get up on the guy's skin so bad they get a personal foul. We got like 3 or 4 of them. If you don't believe it, go back and look at Kansas City in 1998. They called it the Monday Night Meltdown. Boy, I was drawing personal foul left and right. Because I was on top of my talk game back then, Skip. I was on top of the talk game. I told Mike, I said, Mike, call whatever you want. We're going to go down the field. He said, what you mean, 84? I said, I got this. Hey, you call whatever. If you want to take a knee, take a knee. But we're going to go down the field because I'm finna get some personal fouls. And I started talking. If you don't believe it, go back and look it up. The 98 called it the Monday Night Meltdown. I was on top of my game.
Okay,
But
so was Chris.
Y'all got Chris Paul. He comes
In
now.
fact, Monty Williams said after the game, Chris looked at me at one point in the fourth quarter like, I got this.
Okay, well, that's what Monty say. Oh, Monty. Monty. Oh, Monty. I like Monty. Monty might be one of my favorite coaches.
So in final analysis, I'm going to say Patrick Beverly played his you-know-what off in this series. He played as hard as you can play, and his defensive disruption was a key to the Clippers even having a chance to be in this.
Okay.
But then it all went over the cliff. Okay, I got it.
Oh, Cliff Paul showed up.
That's true.
Because you know when Cliff show up, that means everything gonna be okay. He wasn't Chris Paul last night. He was Cliff. Because Chris Paul worried. Cliff Paul let him know everything gonna be. He talking to Jake.
Yeah.
We covered.
Well, the Clippers needed Jake from State Farm, right? The Clippers needed a lot of
Cliff
insurance.
Paul showed up and made sure
He did.
everything was okay.
Oh, I don't know.
That was great.
This was cheap to me. What about Chris Paul's shoulder? It's been
Yes,
what did he
Could've get that man whiplash.
I thought it was
He
a
was
little
laughing about it because he loved it.
Because he know he
line.
can ejected.
I am very old school, apparently.
mercy.
The Suns' finals run has to go to Chris Paul. Not only did he score 41 points in last night's closeout victory, but the point guard's veteran presence all season helped shape a team of young talent into title contenders. Devin Booker spoke glowingly about CP3's legendary status after the game, saying, quote, Chris Paul is stamped regardless. Anything else from here is extra just to solidify it. He's one of the best point guards ever to play this game. That is a fact. Everybody knows he's arguably the best. So, Shannon, do you agree that the outcome of the finals doesn't impact Chris Paul's legacy here?
I disagree with D-Bucks. Gonna have one more last week of that.
Must
What was
you?
that, Alka-Seltzer?
No, that's the dude that you owe me, that you tried to renege and finagle your way out of.
You wouldn't take the bet?
We had a 3. We need to get that tape. Skip, I disagree. Because I believe the final, Skip, it's not going to change whether or not Chris Paul is a great player. I believe you can be great and not win a title. But when it's all said and done, when we're starting to ranking, Skip, it's hard for you to be number 1 or you to be a top 2, top 3 when you don't have any hardware on your resume. There's a reason why Tim Duncan is the greatest power forward to ever live. Karl Malone has more points. Karl Malone probably has more rebounds, but he don't have them 5 rings.
That were almost 6.
That was almost 6. The reason why some people have Kevin Garnett ranked in front of Charles Barkley is why? Both won MVPs, but KG got the championship.
I'm on top of the world.
Yeah.
Yep.
So for me, Skip, will it change whether or not I believe Chris Paul is a great point guard? Absolutely not. But when it starts come time to ranking, when Chris Paul's career is over, you look at Magic, 3 MVPs, 3 Finals MVPs, 5 rings.
Yep.
Isaiah, 1 Finals MVP, 2 rings. Steph Curry, 2 MVPs, 3 rings. Oscar, MVP, a ring. Allen Iverson has an MVP. Russell has an MVP. So in order for him to jump some of these guys, he's going to have to get that title. Now, it won't say, well, because he didn't win a title, he's not great. That's the problem that I run in with people. Well, how great was he? No, you can be great and not win a title. And every great player in every sport's not supposed to win a title, because what's the value in that? If you're great and everybody won a title, well, hell, I wanted it because everybody winning them. No, there should be struggle, and there should be some great players that doesn't win a title. But for me, I absolutely disagree with Devin Booker when he says this will have no impact, because I believe it will. It won't change whether or not people believe Chris Paul is great, but it absolutely would add to his legacy.
Ditto times 10. We can't be prisoner of one great moment in Chris's career, because I believe last night was the greatest game he's ever played.
I'll agree.
I mean, under the circumstances,
correct.
right? It was just, it came like a bolt out of the blue. I wasn't ready for it. And the way he closed that game, last minute, 43 the third, and then the fourth with 27 points.
27 to 35.
Yeah. I don't think he can dunk anymore. I'm not sure he could ever dunk to start with.
He can get up there.
You think so?
You remember he caught the alley-oop from LeBron in the All-Star game.
That's a good one. But now, at the end of year 16, can he dunk? I don't know. I don't really care. But I told you there are times when it looked like he was laboring to get it there from three.
Right.
Then he makes 7 of 8 threes. Okay, so I'm down. I'm like I told you, I bow down to last night. But it was just one night. So now let's put it in perspective. Let's put your favorite word, context.
Right.
July 16, 2019, Chris Paul got traded out of Houston to Oklahoma City because Houston was done with Chris Paul, right? And look at what Houston had to give up to get Russ back. Obviously, Oklahoma City got CP3, but they traded first-round picks, did Daryl Morey, in 2021, 24, 25, and 26. 4 first-round picks to get Russ, but it was in large part to also get rid of Chris and his contract.
Right.
Because that was the only way. He was going to have to give up all those firsts just to get rid of him.
Right.
And it hurt me. You know, I'm from Oklahoma City, and I like the Thunder. I don't love the Thunder, but my point is, it felt like he'd been exiled to way out there in Oklahoma City.
If you traded Chris Paul and Kevin Durant was still there, you're like, okay, I got something.
But there was nobody. Chris was the final, he was the only gate attraction that you had with all these young players, some of them fairly talented, Gilgeous-Alexander. Okay. But not only did Chris go there with his heart in it, but he took the team over. I thought maybe he'd say, okay, I'll just semi-retire here and then I'll call it a career.
Or they move him on, like we see they could talk about who that they just traded for Kemba, and they talk about they're going to move Kemba. I thought they would do that, Skip.
Okay, but that didn't happen.
Nope.
He lifted them to a 44-28 record going to the bubble. 44-28, and that was tied with Houston and Utah. And it wound up because of the tiebreakers that they got the 5th seed, and Houston ended up with the 4th seed and Utah with the 6th. But they were all tied at 44-28.
Right.
Who saw that coming? So that was the forerunner of what he was about to do in Phoenix.
Right.
And it wasn't a good move for Phoenix to go get him. It was all-time great.
Right.
Because it solidified everything. He became a coach on the floor to Monty on the bench.
Right.
And he was great for Ayton's emergence and obviously for Devin Booker.
Right.
He solidified everything. And then when they needed him most, he brought it all the way home in his home away from home at Staples, coming off COVID with, according to USA Today, a torn ligament in his shooting wrist. Wow. Okay, I give it up. But again, it was only one night.
Right.
And you know and I know that you were, and I'm not ridiculing you for this, but you were campaigning for Cameron Payne. I was co-signing your campaign that he needed more minutes.
Right.
Because Chris was looking a little old and slow. So my point is, if you look at his playoff history, he blew a 3-1 lead in Houston, LA, I'm sorry, with the Clippers to Houston. And he'd blown 2 2-0 leads. And there'd been some flameouts, some meltdowns, some playoff disasters. And with his reputation for being a cheap shot artist and a flopper, if you add all that up, last night was huge because it got him to his first ever NBA Finals.
Yes.
Well, now, I'm not sure who's going to come out of that other side, because it's going to be a lesser of evils.
But I believe they'll be favored over either one.
The Phoenix will.
Phoenix will.
Definitely.
Skip, look at this. Chris Paul has the most all-star appearances, all NBA selections, started, most playoff games, scored the most career points of anyone without a final appearance on his resume.
Okay. Got it.
So now he
No
has
surprise.
that.
Yep. But you have to close that deal.
Yes.
Because you can't lose to the Atlanta Hawks,
No,
right?
no. Or Milwaukee.
The 5th seed in the East, right? Okay, we'd have back-to-back 5th seeds making it to the NBA Finals out of the East. Or Milwaukee if Giannis can't come back. What if it's just Middleton and Drew Holiday, right?
Skip, this is the way I look at it, and I've always felt like this, and I'm not just saying this, but I felt people that say rings didn't matter are people that doesn't have any. When you play a professional sport, what the hell are you playing for? Are you so you just like, man, as long as I'm a good player, I don't care if I don't ever get to the finals. I don't care if I don't ever win a championship, Super Bowl, MLB, whatever, World Series. I don't care. No, that's what people say, Skip, that doesn't have that. Because people that have that and work, I mean, look at Michael Claude. Look at LeBron, all the trials and tribulations. It took Chris Paul 16 years.
16 years.
What the hell you think he playing for? He done made a boatload of money.
And he's going to make another boatload next year.
So it gets to a certain point, money, that's what's so special about championship, because money can't buy it. Even though you might spend the most money, ain't no guarantee, ain't no assurances, because you spent $200 million and you go in the luxury tax that you're going to get that. Somebody can't go in their pocket and say, you know what? I got half a bill. Here, I'm going to spend $80 million to get me. No, you can't buy that. So for me, this absolutely would add to his legacy. It wouldn't diminish him. He's a great player. But great player and iconic players are two different things, Skip. There's a reason why we look at Magic and we look at Jordan and Bird and these great. We look at them different. We look at LeBron. We look at KD. We look at them different. That's what this is about.
Okay, so back to his resume, 11-time All-Star.
Yes.
9-time All-Defense, 6-time Steals champ, 4 times assist champ, 1-time All-Star MVP in 2013, and Rookie of the Year back in 05-06.
Right.
He traded all for this one chip.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Because that's why you play. So now, Skip, all the things that you mentioned and 2021 NBA champion.
Oh.
Now it's complete.
It's got a big old exclamation.
Now it's complete. Now it's complete, Skip. Oh, I done got everything. I'm good. My basketball mortality is complete. Now, whatever happens after this, I don't care what y'all say. Because now, Skip, they gonna say, yo, look, all that what you read, you ain't reading nothing about no ring. You ain't reading nothing about no championship over there. He gets that.
I also read you a whole bunch of negativity.
Yeah.
With one ring, you wipe that slate clean.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Skip, he might not be, I think the thing is, he might not be liked by everyone, but I think everybody respects what he's been able to do.
He is definitely not liked by everyone, but definitely, utterly respected.
Yes.
How can you not respect how hard he plays?
Yes.
He is a little pit bull of a competitor.
The way he's fought for his peers as the president.
That's another thing. For years, he's been the head of that players' association.
You got to get voted to that position.
And you have to put the work in, man, because you can't just mail that at one day.
No, because it's not just about you. You have to work on the behest of the guy that's not going to ever make $40 million a year or $30 million a year. You got to work for the guys, Skip, that's basically, they're not going to ever be a Chris Paul or LeBron James. Those guys, hell, them guys don't need anybody to even represent them. They max contract guys.
Yep.
Luka don't need a representative. He'll go get a max contract every time he comes. He's going to get max.
So all those State Farm commercials that have been going on for years, and they're not good, they are great.
How many of you think they're going to be running now? Every other commercial.
Every other commercial. I promise you, he would give all the money he's made off those commercials for this ring.
Yes.
Because none of this matters. It helped make him more famous, but it didn't help cap it off. It didn't validate him. Because when they start, when you go places, he do speaking engagements or he's in front of somebody, they're going to read off. But the last thing they're going to read is NBA champion. Yep. See, Skip, before the 11-time All-Star, 9-time All-NBA selection, Rookie of the Year, assist leader, steals leader, yada, yada, yada. Okay, everybody wait, okay, Joe, that thing building, Chris Paul. Now they're going to read all those things and NBA champion, Chris Paul. And everybody will stand. Yes.
No mercy.
The Suns punched their ticket to the NBA Finals last night with a blowout 130-103 win over the Clippers. Chris Paul led the way for Phoenix with 41 points that included 7 three-pointers plus 8 assists and 0 turnovers. And now the 16-year vet will play for his first NBA title next week. Finally getting that shot. Fox Sports NBA analyst Chris Broussard is with us now. Chris, you actually picked the Clippers to win yesterday, along with someone else I know at that table. So how surprised were you by Chris Paul's performance in the Suns' win?
Well, let me look. I know you guys are lumping me in with Skip to give him some comfort, right? So he's not alone.
Wrong.
I did pick the Suns to win the series in 7. So it's not that surprising that they go ahead and win it in 6. They're the best road team in the league this season. They're 6-2 on the road in the playoffs, and they had closed out the previous 2 series, now all 3 on the road. So they're a great road team. So that's not what's too surprising. But what's surprising is Chris Paul's performance. I mean, the 41 points, and I heard Skip say earlier, was probably the best game of his career, considering the stage and circumstances. And it's hard to argue with that. So I was surprised for 2 reasons by CP3. One, we know he hadn't been having a great series. He entered at shooting 32% from the floor. There was all the talk about, wow, CP3 is great. We get that. But the Clippers are better against the Suns when CP3 is playing. Like he's playing right into their hands with the slow tempo and all of that. So there was talk that he was going to get blamed if they lost this series. So that's number one. Number 2, I've often watched Chris Paul in the regular season and the playoffs throughout his career and been like, man, be more aggressive. Look more for your shot. Look more to be a scorer at times. And he is such a pure point guard and such a floor general that he's always looking for everybody else. The last 3 years, he's only averaged 12 shots a game. Early in his career, he had a season with New Orleans where he averaged 11 shots a game. Like, he is not a guy that shoots the ball a lot. He's a very good shooter. And so I was glad that last night he actually came out and was looking for his shot, and it surprised me. And that run, we all know it. I know you guys have talked about it. In the third quarter, late, when he scores 8, after the Clippers go 10-0 to pull within 7, and Chris hits 2 threes, goes on a private 8-0 run to kind of put it away, so to speak, give him some distance. But he continues. He scored 23 of their 27 points in one stretch. And the 2 other baskets that he didn't have, he assisted on. That's one of the great playoff runs in recent memory. And so that surprised me. It's almost like Chris heard the chatter. He heard the talk. Oh, they might be better this series with campaign. They need to play faster. Chris is hurting them. And he was like, I'm not going to let us lose this series. I will not let this be or stain on my legacy. So that was surprising the way he came out and played.
I agree with everything that you said, and that's what I told Skip. I was surprised. Now, we know he had it in him because we watched what he did in the game 4 when they swept the Nuggets. He's on the road. He scores 37. But he had played well that entire series, so I wasn't surprised by that. But considering how he had struggled, he was 19 of 60 going into last night's ball game. Skip said that's 32%. I'm going to take his word for it. So how you go from 32%, you and D Book, your first game back, y'all 10 of 40. The next game back, y'all like 12 of 44. You're struggling shooting the ball, and all of a sudden you go 16 of 24, 7 of 8 from 3. There was a game that you didn't make a 3. So I'm shocked that he was able to put this game together like this, considering how he had struggled in the previous 3 ball games. That's what's so surprising. Had he had been shooting the ball well, I wouldn't have been surprised at all. But considering that he had struggled, not only from the 3, but from the floor, his turnovers. Remember how well he had played taking care of the ball against the Denver Nuggets? Well, he had started turning the ball over with a little more frequency. Last night he was spotless, 41, 8, and 4. With 0 turnovers.
Say that again. 0 turnovers?
0 turnovers.
God.
So he was spectacular. It was his greatest performance. And given the performance, given what's at stake, you don't. And everybody's like, well, he doesn't. Game 7 is not a guarantee. I don't care if it is in your building. because you're a stepped-on ankle or a bad spill away from losing your best player, and all of a sudden everything goes haywire. But Chris Paul was phenomenal last night. I mean, think about that. Year 16, has there ever been a guy that's waited longer to be a lead and go to the NBA Finals? It's hard. I don't think there's ever been a guy, because even Karl Malone and Barkley, all those guys, they went earlier than year 16. That's for sure. But Chris Paul was sensational. That little old mini Bron run. You remember Bron went on that run against Detroit? You remember that, Chris? When he went on that little run? But he was only 22 then.
Yeah, I was in the building.
He was only 22.
I was in the building.
He didn't even have his driver's license.
Really?
Yeah, Glory hadn't even taken him to get his driver's license yet.
Whatever happened to LeGon James? I was wondering.
He waiting on Kawhi and Paul George to go on a trip vacation together. They got an Airbnb in Cancun.
Well, I thought he was waiting for the Space Jam ripoff to come out.
Yeah, don't do that, Skip.
Didn't they have some party at Magic Mountain?
You a hater. I'm going.
You were not invited.
I'm going to see that thing.
Really?
Yeah.
But you didn't go to the pre-party.
It was going on when we were here. It was yesterday.
Okay.
We were working. We had to work. I can't miss you.
Okay, thank you for that. My turn. In my career, in my life, I don't think I've ever been, like you said, surprised. It's way beyond surprised by one man's performance, because I was blindsided by it. I was shell-shocked. I was flummoxed. I was gobsmacked. It just came out of nowhere. The least likely outcome last night was that Chris Paul would take over the game and score 41 points. And then I was even more dumbfounded after the game when Chris Paul tells Rachel Nichols on ESPN, oh, and on top of everything that was going on, I had to get an MRI on my wrist. And I'm thinking, what MRI? And then I read USA Today, and it is reporting Chris Paul has a torn ligament in his shooting wrist. What? So does that explain some of the horrendous shooting that we saw in the previous 3 games when, as you pointed out, he was 19 of 60, which is 32%, 2 of 16 from 3 in the previous 3 games, including in the last 2, 0 of 9 from 3.
Wow.
And it looked to me like Chris Paul, as he begins to age, he was laboring to even get the ball home from 3, like he had to kind of force it to get it all the way up to the rim. Until last night, when he was just willing in threes, he made 7 of 8 threes. That's impossibly great, especially with, as Chris points out, the weight of the NBA world on his shoulders, one of which got hurt against the Lakers, and he couldn't shoot at all. He couldn't even throw it up sideways. Then he gets COVID to start this series off, and I don't know what the symptoms were. He was vaccinated, but did it bother him? Did it hurt his wind a little bit? I don't know, but they won 2 games without him, and it started to look like they should play Cameron Payne a little more. Maybe play them together, which they tried for a little while last night. But it started to look like he might be losing his job to Cameron Payne. What? And then that happened, and once he got going in the 4th quarter, he was just out of his mind. Yeah. Just like, I got this. Give me the ball again. I'll shoot it. And he's not, as Chris points out, a selfish shooter or scorer.
Yeah.
But he was last night.
Yeah, he's not a one-on-one takeover guy like a Dame Lillard or like a Steph Curry.
No.
He's not that type of guy. Like you said, Chris, he is a textbook, old school, John Stockton, Magic Johnson, Jason Kidd point guard.
Pass first.
I'm going to pass it first. Yep. And if I score 10, 15 points, okay, good. But I'm going to make sure I'm going to have 10 or 11 assists. That's what he's looking to do. Last night, he started hunting people. Nicola Batum, come here. Give me that. Hey, Pat Bev, you want some of this too? Yeah. Marcus Morris, I got some for you also.
DeMarcus Cousins, I got you.
Yeah, Reggie Jackson. Yeah. It didn't matter last night, and that's the thing. These guys are so good, Chris. If you let one of these guys get into a rhythm, once they get into a rhythm, I don't care who the defender is. The rim is too big for the ball not to go in. They're just going to start anybody. It doesn't matter. It happened to Paul George in game 5? It didn't matter. You let him get in the rhythm, and it was basically the same thing. They both had like 10 points. Paul George had 11 points. Chris Paul had 10 at the half, and then he goes and gets 31 like Paul George went and got 30. It's crazy. What? It was crazy to watch Chris Paul, because I've never seen Chris Paul actually hunt his shot like he was hunting it last night.
Right.
Go ahead, Chris.
Only one time. He's played 123 playoff games. Only one time has he taken more than the 24 shots he took last night. He took 25 in a game in 2008. So that for him to even take 24 shots is unusual. And obviously he hit, I think, 16 of them. He was hot. This was, Skip, you brought up the injury. And I don't think, obviously, torn ligament is nothing to play around with.
No.
But I wouldn't, it's not like what Isaiah Thomas had with the bad ankle back in, what was it, 88 against the Lakers, right? We saw the ankle sprain. We saw Isaiah limping. But when you factor in that Chris was injured, we didn't see it, we couldn't tell. This is reminiscent of that. It was a similar type run where Isaiah couldn't miss and Chris Paul couldn't miss. And the other thing is this, now Chris has work to do. He still got to go win these finals. But Isaiah redeemed himself by winning those 2 championships from, remember 1987 when he threw the inbound pass and Larry Bird stole it. Yeah, it looked like Detroit was going to win that series and beat the great Larry Bird and move on. And Isaiah blew it. And it was all on him, and he redeemed himself with the titles. Chris, I talked yesterday about some of his playoff failures and struggles in the clutch. If he goes on to complete this run, he'll render that stuff minor footnotes that we really won't talk about a ton, and we'll instead be talking about this game and then him leading this team to the finals and the championship. So he's got a chance to really push that stuff way into the background, whereas before last night, that stuff was in the foreground.
It's Chris, it's amazing that you say that, because I know one man has never been able to live down 2011. Even though he won 4, he got 4 championships, 4 MVPs.
Out of sight,
I'm talking to Chris. This is a conversation. Chris, this is between you and I. Nobody else can hear us talking. I know a guy that won 4 finals, 4 MVPs, 4 finals MVPs, 2 MVPs since. And somebody continuously bring up 2011. Even after Magic Johnson did what he did in 84. Once he won those 3 other titles, nobody even brings that up. But I know a guy that whatever LeBron does, somebody still bring it up. I ain't gonna call his name.
Wasn't it the worst superstar meltdown we have ever witnessed? Didn't the chosen one become the frozen one?
You see what he did? See, I didn't call your name.
4, 5, and 6.
I thought it was a private conversation, but hey, NSA must be eavesdropping on us, Chris, because you heard me talking about him. It was you.
So, in conclusion, I would like to say this about the Los Angeles Clippers. They gave all they had to give without Kawhi Leonard. If they had Kawhi, they would be advancing to the finals.
Actually, they wouldn't.
Yes,
because since we're going to do healthy, because if we'd have been healthy, we'd have been, hey, Chris, you like this? Look what I got.
Yeah. This is the man campaigning for him to play fewer minutes last night. Now he has the audacity to be such a hypocrite. He's holding up Chris Paul's jersey.
I want to thank my researcher, Ashley. She lives in Orange County. She drove 2 hours to get this jersey, dropped it off at my house at 2 o'clock in the morning.
That is impressive.
Yeah, so Ashley's here to stay.
Really?
Yep.
What happened to Steve? Is he out of a job now?
Steve
you go on vacation, you lose your job?
He on paternity leave.
Really?
Yeah.
He'll be back.
Okay. So, in conclusion, I believe the Clippers did not play poorly last night. Chris Paul was just too good.
They played poorly.
They did not.
Yeah, they did.
Well, Paul George didn't show up because he was resting on his Game 5 laurels.
Hey, Chris, can I ask you a question? Is shooting 42% from the floor and 31% from 3, is that playing poorly? I know we cut for time and Jenny's going to throw it to break. Okay.
No, not poorly.
Damn, they shot 42% and 31% from 3.
Marcus Morris was terrific. Patrick Beverly was tremendous.
No, Patrick Beverly wasn't. Patrick Beverly was a cheap shot artist.
No, he was not.
But I need to know, your guy, that guy that's... Hey, Chris, remember we was having that conversation yesterday? One of the most talented guys to lace him up?
Yep.
That's the guy that you needed to play like Marcus Morris played. That was that guy.
He hit the wall.
Oh, no.
As Ty Lue said, we ran out of gas.
I thought superstars couldn't get tired, Chris. Isn't that what he told you on the old show and this show? Superstars don't get tired.
Well, if they're human, they get tired.
Oh,
but LeBron, we know, is not human.
Said they were devastated in the locker room knowing that it was over for them.
No mercy.
And remember, we've got Lil Wayne stopping by in just a bit to tell us what exactly he said to his friend Chris Paul last night after that embrace and advancing to his first ever NBA Finals. Oh, so much joy. I can't wait to have Wayne join us. in just a bit. But first, guys, we got to talk Paul George here. He couldn't muster up another big-time game last night as the Clippers were eliminated with the 130-103 loss. PG only scored 21 points, including just 1 of 6 from 3, and to go along with 4 turnovers as well. And his plus-minus of -25 was the lowest on the team. After the game, George was disappointed but told reporters, "I wasn't out to prove nothing to nobody, but to show up as a leader for this team and to put us in position to get to where we got to." Chris Broussard back with us. Chris, how much did PG prove to you during this playoff run, if anything?
Look, you just said it, Jen. He played poorly last night, and you read off the numbers and all of that.
Yeah.
But I believe that Paul George helped himself in these playoffs. And look, I don't hold him to the same standard as Michael Jordan, LeBron James, or even Giannis, Steph, Kawhi, James Harden, guys like that. They're better than him. They're on another level from Paul George. But I do think he helped himself because if you think about what his reputation and stature was coming into this season off the bubble, okay, where he went, 10 points, 4 for 16 in Game 7 against Denver in the second round in a series that they just choked away. He's hitting the side of the backboard on some of his shots. There's no way he goes into next season with the same status. I think he earned the public's respect. I think he earned some players' respect by the way he played in these playoffs. He averaged 27 points, 9.5 rebounds, and 5.5 assists in these playoffs. And he put himself in some historic company. For him to score 20 or more points in every playoff game, 19 of them in all, joining only Kevin Durant, Kobe Bryant, and Michael Jordan to ever do that, for him to put up numbers in Game 5 that we've never seen in the 74-year history of the NBA, I got to give him props for that. Now, do I think he's a number 1? Do I think he can lead your team to a championship? No. He still can't do that. But I think he's a heck of a number 2. And I think coming off of these playoffs, I think his confidence will be better. I think his teammates' confidence in him will be greater. Ty Lue's confidence in him, greater. And I think Paul and Kawhi will come back next year and play the best basketball that they have played together as a duo. So I think Paul George really helped himself.
But sure hope so. It went from Kawhi Town, and we got next. We up now to Georgetown, to somebody town. Now it's a ghost town. Because the Clippers are out of there.
And Lagon is gone.
Hey, Chris, for me, when I look at Paul George is exactly who I thought he was. I thought he was a great player to begin with, and I still do. And I agree with what you said. I don't look at him as a true number 1. Paul George is you get Paul George, you're automatically entitled contention. And the likelihood of him being able to put together historic performances like he did in Game 5, to bring that back, Skip, like Chris was saying, Jordan does that. LeBron, Kevin Durant, you talk about the best, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, the best of the best. We're talking about Pantheon players now. Paul George is not a Pantheon player. I was just disappointed that I thought he would be more aggressive. He went out very meekly last night. He had 6 points in the first half, Chris. You don't go, I'm going down swinging. Everybody say, man, he was ball hogging. He shot too many times. And because I felt that was the best way for us to win. He wanted everybody else to see if everybody else could get going and he could relax. They made him uncomfortable early. Nobody else really got it going, although Boogie was played well again. Then Marcus Morris started to come along. Reggie Jackson didn't get off to his typical hot start that he normally does. He played okay. But Paul George was the guy that they were counting on to give them a very similar performance to what he gave them in Game 5. And he did not. Basically, he went back. If you go back and look at him since Kawhi went out, he just played like he played in Indiana. He was Indiana George. He's like, I'm the best player on the court. This is what I'm capable of doing. And he did it. So I don't look at Paul George anyway. I thought he was a great guy. Yeah, I call him Polyester P. But he's a phenomenal talent. He's just not the guy. And as long as you understand he's not the guy, he's more than a guy, but he's just not that. He's not Kawhi. He's not LeBron. He's not Dame. He's not Steph. So for me, I didn't lose any respect for him, and all of a sudden, it's not like, well, you know, man, Paul George, he really impressed me. I've seen him. I saw what he did with the Big Three Heat. I saw that with my own eyes, and he took them to a Game 7. I don't care what anybody tells me. The Big Three Heat were better than the Suns, and he took them to a Game 7 with less talent. Because he had, I mean, come on now. Roy Hibbert, I think Lance Stevens was on that team. Come on now, Chris. Well, who we kidding?
George Hill.
yeah. Who we kidding? That team that he took 7 games with the Heat was less talented than his Clippers team. But give him credit. He played well in spots, but that game he needed to be more aggressive and give me more than what he gave me.
Okay. I believe Shannon Sharpe has gained so much respect for Paul George that he, through this show today, has been putting him in the same sentence with LeBron James all day long. And I appreciate that very much. Paul appreciates that.
No, you don't want to talk about
elevated him into conversation with LeBron.
Chris,
Way to go.
Who was that the other day talking about that was a LeBron James-esque performance? Oh, he's a this and that. And Boogie Cousins talking about we try to critique players. Now, I want to see Boogie. Boogie, what should I say about Paul George today? Because you wanted me to give him his flowers 2 days ago. So how should I critique his play today? Get back to me if you can.
Well, I'm back to you right now that Paul George has always been supremely talented.
Yes.
He is 6'8". He's long. He can steal the ball. He can shoot the ball in ways even LeBron has never thought about shooting the ball because he's got serious three-point range. And when he gets cooking, he can really cook. And we saw it in all its glory in Game 5. The disappointment is, even though I thought he grew up and toughened up this year and grew a little deeper backbone this year, that after he went for that historic 41-13-6 in Game 5, and they pull up the huge upset at Phoenix, then he rested on his laurels last night. I don't think he cared how he played last night because he is a complimentary star. And he thought, I've done all I need to do to keep my critics at bay.
Right.
And now I can rest on my laurels. I can just sort of cruise through this game. He came out in slow motion. It looked like he was sleepwalking in the first half. And I don't want to see it because you're not made of that stuff that you're talking about that the superstars are made of. Whatever Chris Paul is made of, Paul George is not made of. And it was disheartening to me. It was sorely disappointing to me to watch him just say, I'm fine. And he readily acknowledged after the game, I came up short again. I came up short again. You're willing to say that without any pain in your voice at all. I came up short again.
But when we mention it, we don't know what we're talking about. And we need to give a guy. That's what he said, Chris. He said he came up short again. Basically, what we've been saying all along, that Paul George came up short. But when we say it, man, y'all know what y'all casuals. Y'all don't know what y'all talking about. Y'all don't know who. Well, he just said what we've been saying for the last 6-7 years.
Okay. So, without Kawhi, over these 8 games, it was 5 and 6 against Utah, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 against Phoenix. Paul George averaged 30, 11, and 6. Well, that's pretty great. Right? You can't just find those numbers under any palm tree out here in Los Angeles, right? So the point is, while he was doing so, his three-point shooting got worse and worse over games 2 through 6 against Phoenix. He shot 23% from 3. That's 9 of 40. That just won't get it.
Right.
And I told you earlier, if you'd made 15 of 40, we might be having a different conversation. But you didn't because you were a 41% regular season three-point shooter who shot 23% over the most crucial games of the playoff run. That's who he is and who I guess he will always be.
Chris, I think you're letting Paul George off the hook. And let me tell you why. Because Kawhi's gone. And so now there's not the expectations there that would have been there with Kawhi. And I told y'all this yesterday. I say now the expectations. Can you replicate what you did in Game 5? Can you do that in Game 6? And he could not. You see, if they lose to Utah, is anybody going to hold that against Paul George? Because Utah is the #1 seed. They had won the most games in the NBA. So if he loses that game, what's to be said? If he loses to the Suns, ain't nobody going to say anything. Well, they didn't have Kawhi. They didn't have Serge Ibaka. They didn't have Zubats. So now we get a series. It's 3-2. You got the game in your home court. The expectations which you have set, considering how well you played, And especially how well you played in Game 5. Okay, now, Paul George, we want to see what you got. And what did he do? Right on cue. What did he do, Skip?
I agree. I agree with you. And we talked about that before, Shannon. If you look throughout his playoff career, he's been best when there were no expectations. You keep bringing up the Heat. Nobody expected him to beat the Heat.
Zero.
So he plays great. All right, and then you're absolutely right from Game 5 to Game 6. But look, he obviously was up and down. Even as he scored 20 or more points in every game, his shooting percentage and everything was fluctuated all the time. But I got to keep it real. If you go back and look at some of the shooting for everybody, from Jordan on down, they all had some bad shooting performances in the playoffs. Not as many as Paul George.
Right.
He's got, I think, it might be the record.
He got
for
11, in which he shot 25% or less.
Shooting. Right. Right. But Bird, Jordan, LeBron, they all had some games where they didn't shoot well in the playoffs. Durant. So it's understanding what level of player he is. If you came into this game after Game 5 thinking, oh my, Paul George has arrived. Paul George is this all-time great player, even as I think he may be a Hall of Famer. But if you put him in a higher level, then you're going to be sorely disappointed. And you will throughout his career because he's not that level of player.
Yeah, Skip better go talk about he tired. I remember a guy, you remember 2013 when LeBron James led the playoffs in minutes?
Here we go again.
I'm just saying, but you're tired. We don't do tired.
I thought he was Iron Man.
Hold on. What about this? Would you say Paul George is Dame Lillard? Because when I told you Dame Lillard started wearing down after he got that 55, you said he can't be tired. So I just want to know, so how are we judging Paul George? Is he? I mean, how low on are we going as far as superstar?
I'd rather have Paul George than Damian Lillard.
Man, you out your mind.
No, I'm
you
not.
lost all your
I'll
mind.
take it.
Chris.
Skip, if Neil O'Shea called the Clippers today and offered Damian Lillard for Paul George, man, Paul George would be on the plane to Portland before he could hang up the phone. You don't think so?
Yeah,
I
you
agree.
are all of your mind.
41, 13, and 6. Really?
Either way.
No mercy.
Tomorrow, the knockout rounds of the 2021 Copa America begin with a quarterfinal doubleheader. Peru takes on Paraguay starting at 4:30 Eastern. Then it's a showdown between the last two Copa champions as Brazil battles Chile, all on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Well, guys, Patrick Beverly was ejected in the fourth quarter of the Suns' closeout win last night, and the Clippers guard was seemingly frustrated with something Chris Paul said after he drilled a deep three with 6 minutes left to give Phoenix a 26-point lead. And Beverly proceeded to shove CP3 in the back as the two teams were heading to their benches. Chris Broussard still with us. Chris, what did you make of this?
Well, Jen, look, I've long said that Patrick Beverly is the epitome of this statement. He's the type of guy you'd hate to play against, but you'll love him if he's on your team. And I've said that more than ever in this series because that's what he was looking like to me. I'd love to have him as a teammate. But last night, even his own teammates should be ashamed of him. That was terrible what he did. I don't know if did Chris say anything or did he just look at him?
Skip thinks he said something when he hit a three.
But even if he said the worst thing, okay, Pat Bev, that was terrible. It was beyond a cheap shot because usually cheap shots come in action, right? They come when you're playing. They don't come when guys are, walking toward the bench or things like that. And it wouldn't have been right even this way, but to push a guy in his back, like, at least face him up and say something to him or push him or whatever you're going to do. I hope that one of Pat Beverly's teammates or some of them go to him and chastise him. I'm not saying you got to cancel him and all of that stuff, but they need to let him know that that was ridiculous and we can't have that stuff. That was terrible. And I hope that Patrick Beverly calls Chris Paul, if he already hasn't, and apologizes because we're lucky, guys, and we know, you talked about the torn ligament in his wrist, Skip. What if he lands on that? We know he had a bum shoulder against the Lakers in that series. Yeah, I know it was just a shove, and generally guys don't get hurt from that. But you don't know what could have happened. Maybe he could have pushed him into a teammate and he hits his face on a guy's knee or something. Who knows? We're lucky and fortunate that Chris Paul did not get hurt. And what I think it stemmed from was Patrick Beverly. Number one, he was getting scorched. All right, Chris Paul had just scored 22 of 26 points for the Suns, many of them on Patrick Beverly. Number two, Patrick Beverly knew the game, the series, and the season was over. So he was frustrated. You know he thought they were going to win the championship. Right. And then here's the other thing. Patrick Beverly runs his mouth, man. And sometimes I'm just watching, he's getting on my nerves. He just runs his mouth. Shannon talks a lot about Dame in the bubble and what he said to him and mocking him. Remember what he said to Steph Curry when they got Kevin Durant or Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. You had the last 5 years. We got the next 5 years. Where here we are 2 years in and they got nothing. So Patrick Beverly was frustrated, and he let it get the best of him. I'm not, I still like Pat Bev and all that. He's a hard-nosed player. But that is just completely uncalled for. I was talking to somebody in the league today. They think he'll get, it's just an executive for a team, but they think he'll get, suspended for the first 2 or 3 games next year. I think he should get suspended for the first 5 games next year. It's still only 5 of 82, but I think that would send more of a message that, hey, this is beyond the pale, man. You can't be doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. Oh, if I'm Chris Paul, he calls me. If this Joker called me, first of all, he can't call me because I'm canceling anybody that gives him my number. But I hang up on his, I'm going to hang up in his face, and then I'm going to find out who gave my number, and then guess what? He's not going to have my number no more. I don't do that. I don't play that. First, that's first and foremost. Now, why would I accept this call anyway? Because remember when he undercut him the other night, he up there mocking him. Now, he undercut Chris Paul. Chris Paul could have seriously hurt himself. He bounced like a ball on the floor, and he up there talking about
He flopped.
Okay.
He didn't undercut him.
Yeah,
he just fought over a pick.
No,
by the way, it was a moving screen by 8.
He undercut him.
Yep.
And then, Chris, you remember last night in the second quarter when he crossed over Chris Paul and he laid the ball up and he stared at Chris Paul yapping? Oh, our front-running on him, old front-running Pat Bev. What you got to say about that, Chris? What you got to say about Skip? I'm talking about you, because me and Chris on the same page. Because
you're always on the same page.
No, we don't always.
You need each other.
Skip, there was no need to do that. The game was out of hand. Okay. All that fighting and pushing, you should have did that the first 3.5 quarters.
I give you this. I'm certainly not condoning the shove in the back.
What you condoning then?
I promise you, Chris Paul said something that would be fighting words out in the street if said to you. You would say, okay, that's too much. And Patrick Beverly played his tail off in this series. And he scratched and clawed all he could, and he traded trash talk under their breath with Chris Paul that if people knew what it was, they would be horrified by it. And in the end, he just said, as Chris said, the game is over. I've had enough of him. And remember, they don't like each other.
No.
And Chris Paul has a checkered past in this league of cheap shots and cheap trash-talking shots.
Right.
He's gone below the belt on people before, literally, numerous times, and he plays in the gray area. So it's hard for me to muster up a whole lot of sympathy for Chris Paul when they're two of a kind.
Yeah.
They are both little pit bulls who are just fighting their tails off for 6 games, and finally Patrick Beverly went over the edge. He just couldn't take it. I think Chris muttered something to him as they passed just before the show.
No, he didn't say that. He's out busting you up.
Yeah.
That's what happened.
And by the way, I do like what Chris Broussard said. You got to go at least face him up. Just run around back, just get in his face and say, let's go right now. You and I, right here, right now.
Chris, you remember when Dr. J and Larry Bird got into it? Because Larry Bird was like, I'm busting you up, Holmes. You can't do nothing. Take them right here with you, Holmes. You take Doc say, you talking to me like that? Here's another 3. And Bird hit another 3 on him. And Doc said, wop, 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 wop. That's all you got to do. Skip, you don't shove no man in his back how he bust you. Say, you know what? You got me today. You can Skip, it happened to me. As much as I talk, sometimes guys got a good lick on me. Sometimes guys held me down to what I'm used to catching. If I'm used to catching 5 or 6 passes, a guy get me for 3, 25, 30 yards. You got me, bro. I ain't gonna stop talking, but you got me. You won today. I'll see you again. Kansas City, I'll see you again. I'll see you again, Pittsburgh. All that talking y'all doing now. But you know what? At the end, I'm going to be talking. And then guess what? Now y'all want to fight me. Everybody want to fight me at the end of the game now. But when they was winning, ain't nobody, hey, yeah, Sharp. Oh, big mouth. Talk now. Oh, okay.
Yeah, 2013, end of I believe it was a first-round series against Memphis at Memphis. The game was completely over, and Chris Paul got a running start and hit Marc Gasol below the belt. Hit him right in the midsection, and I think it was Joey Crawford just said, "You're out of here."
It was an accident.
Only like 40 seconds.
It was an accident. He stumbled, lost his balance.
So they both have checkered past. But how about DeMarcus Cousins at the end of game 2 at Phoenix? He got a running start and shoved, but at least it was face-to-face, but he shoved Devin Booker.
Yeah.
And didn't get suspended for it or fined that I know of.
Yeah,
I don't know.
But come on, Skip. I mean, guys talk, you get it, but you don't shove a guy like that. You could have hurt the guy. And then what? So I guess people going to say, that's the Clipper fan, oh, Chris Paul flopped. Okay, I tell you
that was not a flop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Let somebody run and push you when you're not expecting it.
And it was two hands, full force.
Yeah.
Yep.
Get to step it. Hey, everybody here on 3, Chris. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. You know what he and Paul George were doing last year with Dame? Oh, 1, 2, 3, Cancun. Let's get it here.
Well, Lagon's been there for like 3 weeks.
I told you, Chris, I don't know how often you've ever flown a private jet or had a charter fishing boat, but the best thing about chartering something is they wait for you. They wait for you. And so I paid good money to charter this boat because I knew the Clippers was coming. Yeah. They said we got a 2-week wait. That's all long as we can wait, Mr. Sharp. I said, okay, they'll be here in the next 48 hours. They'll be here.
Really?
Yeah. Go fishing. We going fishing. We going to catch some tuna, maybe some blue marlin, something like that. Yeah.
They went 2 more rounds than Lagon and the Lakers. I don't know how it happened.
No, they went 1 more round. That's all right. No. Skip, it don't matter. Skip, all you did was practice 2 extra weeks. What you got to show for it? What banner y'all gonna hang? We advanced to the Western Conference Finals? Because y'all know to hang those kind of banners.
First time in their history.
Y'all hang Christmas Day champs. Y'all hung opening day champs. Almost advanced to the second round champs. And now y'all almost won the Western Conference Finals champs. We don't hang anything but champs. That's all we hang up in Staples. You see no other banners. You don't see no Pacific Division champ or Western Division champ. We hang champion banners. That's what we do.
Oh, do you? Yeah,
we
got to play the 5th seed in the bubble last year.
Hold on.
Without 2 of its best players.
Whoa.
That's impressive.
You see what you did there?
You got a cubic zirconia ring. Congratulations.
No. So what you gonna say about the Suns? I told you I don't believe in asterisks. I don't care about who got hurt or who wasn't there. You had an opportunity to play. So play. And don't be crying over spilled milk, Pat Bev. Now, I want to hear all that chirping. Now, I want y'all to do all that chirping. Like y'all were chirping after game 5?
Yep.
And after y'all chirping after game 3? Chris, be quiet. I bet you don't hear nothing. They like a Pentecostal 10 after it's done clearing out. Chris, you know how the Pentecostal 10s after they clear out. It's quiet. Ain't nothing but the banquet chairs being folded up, set in the corner.
Really? Sounds like the Lakers season to me.
I mean, what they got going on? I think they got some event going on. They got a monster truck event scheduled. Because they already knew the Clippers weren't going to be playing in the finals. They scheduled a monster truck event. They going to get the dirt. Skip, did you know this? The dirt that they put in those stadiums, they keep that dirt. Really? Because dirt is expensive, so they go dump it somewhere, and when they need it again, they put it back in there. That's courtesy of my good friend Jenny.
Yeah, I told you that. Yeah, I do have some history.
But they knew the Staples was going to be vacant because y'all weren't going to be playing.
Really?
Yeah.
So they're going to load the dirt back into Staples, is what you're saying.
Monster truck.
Oh, okay. All right. You don't
Whatever
forget
happened
anything,
to LeBron James?
Don't worry about him.
I don't know.
He got a head start on getting healthy.
No mercy. Lil Wayne was one of the first people to congratulate Chris Paul after the game last night. Wayne and CP3 have been friends for years, and the rapper was cheering on Chris Paul at Staples Game 3, 4, and 6 as he sat directly across from the Suns bench. We're now joined by legendary rapper, friend of the show, Lil Wayne. Wayne, it's so great to have you. And honestly, watching that embrace, it was emotional. What did it mean to Chris Paul last night?
Thanks for having me. How are y'all doing? I hope y'all great.
Well, we good, baby. We good.
First of all, Miss Jenny, it was very emotional. I cannot lie. I had tears in my eyes. I can't lie. So actually, when he wanted me to come over there and celebrate, he was like, nah. He pulled the rope. He's like, nah, you belong over here. You belong over here. I was like, nah. You know what I mean? I don't want nothing to go wrong with y'all team. I'm saying I'm a little too emotional. So I watched from the sideline. It was awesome.
So, Mr. Carter, we do appreciate you either getting up early with us or maybe staying up because you probably partied all night with Chris Paul. That's what I'm guessing.
Studio Skip.
Yeah, thank you. So help us out on this. I'm assuming that you first connected with Chris Paul somewhere back in New Orleans during his rookie year, which would be 05-06. That Carter 2 had just come out. And you were just emerging as the most dominant in the rap game. And he was emerging, obviously, as the rookie of the year in the NBA. Did you connect some point when he first came to New Orleans, which is your hometown?
I did.
Obviously.
I did because he actually had a condo. He had a condo, and we had a condo in the same building. And of course, I got season tickets, and once I got season tickets, we became brothers, man. Of course, along with his brother CJ and his whole family, his mom, everybody all just embraced me as like a brother, like one of their own.
And it feels to me, knowing you the way I know you, that you do consider Chris seriously like a real brother, right?
A real brother. For real, a real brother. Chris has been there for me during the dark times. I've been there right there for him doing the same.
So can you share a little bit of what he yelled in your ear and you yelled back in his ear while you were embracing last night?
First thing he said was, like, you deserve to be, you got to be over here. You've been with me from day one. You've been with me. And then the only thing I said back to him, I kept repeating the same thing: is you deserve this. You deserve this.
Wow. And then what happened after the game? Did you go somewhere with the family to celebrate?
No, actually, I had to shoot a video.
Oh, did you? Okay.
I had to go to the video set, yeah.
Wayne, tell him you had just watched that man put in work. That just because he put in work, that don't mean my work stopped. I got to go do my thing.
I got to go do my thing. I had to go put in my work, right? It was motivating.
Wayne, I believe this means everything to Chris. When you play 16 years and you're as accomplished as he is, and never to ever have gotten a bite, let alone eating, you had a bite of the fruit. I mean, now he has the fruit in his hand. It's up to him to win 4 games and actually bite that fruit. Now he gets to cement his name. It's kind of like you. You knew what you could do. You just needed that opportunity. He got with a team that had some young guys that just needed some direction, just needed some leadership. They got the right coach in Monty Williams. DeAndre Ayton is a rising big man. Devin Booker is an assassin. He's a bucket getter. And now you bring Chris Paul with that leadership. They're going to the NBA Finals. What do you think this moment means to him right now in winning a championship? What would that mean to Chris?
I think me, you, Skip, and Miss Jenny, and everybody watching, that would mean more than the world to Chris. For Chris, I think all the things we keep hearing about, about the asterisks and all the who's hurt and who's not. I know one person who that does not mean a thing to, and that's CP.
So you did also go to Phoenix for Game 5.
Yeah.
What was the mood like at the end of that game among the Suns fans? And I assume you talked to Chris after that game also, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The mood amongst the fans there's some great people out there, Skip. They were so happy that the team was just where they are. And they also very confident. They're confident like the team. And so they kind of, it's kind of like they was there. Everybody was okay. Like no panic. What that guy number 12 said, RELAX, something like that.
Yeah, you know what, Pat, we were talking during the break, and when you were in Phoenix, you said a certain gentleman that played for the opposing team that happened to shove CP3 in the back. You said, he struck up a conversation with you when you were on the sideline. Can you care to share about what he was talking about?
Coincidentally, I had a nice little orange button down on. He just wanted to make sure, he just making sure like, man, you're rooting for you. Man, you got the orange on and all that. I was just like, we're going to laugh, a little chuckle. Pat been my dog, though. He been rocking with me since day one. Pat been rocking with me.
Are you surprised that he did that to Chris at the time at the break, that he shoved him in the back like he did?
I would say I would be surprised at the severity of what he did.
Right.
Surprised at him doing it. Surprised at his, what he do now is never surprising. But going that far, yeah.
So what was Chris's mood like in the Phoenix locker room after that Game 5 home loss, coming back to Staples for Game 6?
He uttered these words. It was real short and quick. Was be there. It's like, be there. I need you to be there, and I need you to be there. We taking it. That's what it was. We taking it. I need you to be there.
Oh man, I sure wish you to relay that to me. Cause then I could have got me. I could have got me about 40 cases to do. Cause if CP3 say be there, we taking it. I got 50 cases on the Suns.
Well, Wayne, you also told me that after the Game 3 loss at Staples, obviously they came down 0-2. The Clippers down 0-2, but Clippers won Game 3, and you told me Chris told you right after the game we're going to win it in 6, right? And he was dead on the money.
Yeah.
Yeah. We win it in 6. We won this thing in 6. Playoff P, Master P, Suns in 6.
Stop it.
It don't matter. It don't matter the P. It don't matter the P. It don't matter. It's 6.
So, Wayne, speaking of playoff P, what did you see through this series from Paul George?
I saw Paul George. To me, I saw Paul George go back to that very disciplined player that can get everything you want out of him when he was in Indiana. Mm-hmm. That's what I saw. That's the Paul George I saw this whole playoff. Especially when times got tough. He turned, back then, I thought that back then when he was with Indiana, he was just so disciplined. Type of guy that, type of guy score a touch. I'm using these analogies. Score a touchdown and wouldn't celebrate. He was that kind of guy. You know what I mean? And that's who he turned into again.
Not so much last night, though.
But here's the thing, though. There's the difference. We got a lot of these young rappers. They coming up and they say, well, he this, well, he that one. But they ain't Weezy. They can't do what you do when they just say, come in the studio, hey, I need you to come in the studio and drop this track for me. You show up and you drop that track and that thing fire. Because with the expectations, they already know when Baby get on that feature, they already know how you gonna do it. So now the expectations of Paul George after what he did in Phoenix, hey, we need you on this track. Can you do that thing again? And he came on this feature and let us down. Now we got to find somebody else to put on the feature.
I mean, don't even do it again if you're not going to do it better than the last time.
Yeah.
Wayne, we are happy for you. We're happy for Chris Paul.
Happy
it was
for
a
me.
great moment to see. I know they're not done, but I can't let you leave Undisputed before I ask you about LeBron.
Yep.
Would the Lakers have won it this year if they were healthy? Don't go anywhere. More with Wayne after the break.
No mercy.
Well, the Suns' run to the finals started by beating LeBron and AD in the first round, but those two superstars played through injuries throughout the whole season. Many people have pointed to the quick turnaround from last year's finals as the main reason these Lakers never got into a rhythm. So instead, we were left with a bunch of what-ifs. Lil Wayne still with us. So, Wayne, I start with you. If LeBron and AD had been healthy, would the Lakers have won it all again?
Miss Jenny, I'm honestly going to have to say yes. Yes, I think everybody know that. And I would probably be right now. If LeBron and AD was healthy, I would probably right now be explaining to Chris how he needs to really try to get to the Lakers or something, because that would be another lost season for him. But now we're rocking with the Suns, so it's all good.
Timeout. How would the Lakers healthy have gotten past the Clippers healthy?
Easy.
Not easy.
Excuse me?
With Kawhi and Paul George, you can't get past
exactly.
that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Exactly. You talking about that team?
That team.
Those two guys? Those two guys.
Yeah, the team that just went on the run that should have finished with an NBA Finals championship.
You did better saying with Morris Sr. and Reggie Jackson.
Yeah.
Right.
Those guys.
Yeah.
Shot the lights out last night.
Yeah, those are the stars.
Yeah.
You have to understand there's something called expectations.
Yeah.
And the second guy that you mentioned behind Kawhi doesn't do well when he has those expectations.
Well, time out. How old is LeBron James now? Isn't he like 39 or is he 40?
Don't worry about it. And
Whatever happened to him?
And still cutting butt like a 25-year-old ain't a nephew. He cutting butt like he's 25 and he about to be 37.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I want you to have that same energy next year too, Skip.
Well, will he have the same energy next year? LeBron, I mean.
Okay.
Will he?
This guy is Skip, bro.
I know you didn't see that last night. You saw who showed up at the Sparks game?
I did not see that.
Dave,
I was actually watching this game.
Oh, Dave Dollar.
Really?
And guess who he dabbed up and said, hey,
Really?
I got you.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, then you'd have two guys who are not clutch.
Don't
right?
do that, Skip.
Well,
Don't
that's
do that.
what you'd have. Is that what you want?
Hold on.
Anthony Davis, clutch.
So hold on.
I give you
call
that.
it You say Dame not clutch?
Nope.
Did you just say Dame?
That's what
Not
he said.
clutch. Look it up.
Hold on.
Go look.
Okay.
So you got
So
this
mean-
next year. You're
talking about
sure
the
of
wave,
this.
You mean the same guy who waves by to you after, the same guy who just looks in the camera after that guy?
Yeah, he waved by to Russell Westbrook. Congratulations.
And James Harden.
Impressive. Oh,
And
stop
then
it.
the look in the camera was another shot, Skip. That was another game.
Yeah. Okay, we cannot let you go without switching gears and ask you about the team that you have lived and died by since you were a little kid in New Orleans, and that is the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
The biggest story in the league is Aaron Rodgers. Will he be your starting quarterback in September in Green Bay?
Skip. The honest answer to that is I would say I don't know, and if I had to bet on it, I'd say no.
No. Okay.
No.
And where do you think? What's your gut tell you where he would wind up?
I think Denver.
Oof. Mr. Sharp would love
smiling.
Hey, wait, we be out there. We be out there on the rag. We be out there in the box. Oh, man. We be out there in the box, and me and baby gonna be out that thing easy chilling. He's gonna be hating. He gonna be hating again. Now he got another team to hate.
Yeah. Okay, so if that happens, what is your gut telling you about the near future of one Jordan Love? From what you've heard, what you've seen, what you feel, how would he do as the starting quarterback next year for your Packers?
Skip, I feel good about Jordan.
Good.
I feel good about Jordan because I feel good about our team. And I feel like we got one of those systems where you can't just throw anybody in there. But you're gonna look good in there if you do what you're supposed to do.
Weezy, I hate to break it to you. Kevin Love, Courtney Love, Jordan Love. Without Aaron Rodgers, y'all not going anywhere.
I can't do it.
Y'all not going anywhere, okay? I just want to throw that out there to you. I understand that you got a lot of confidence in your Green Bay Packers, but without that number 12, fire that thing. It's gonna be a really long season for you.
I got you.
You realize there was a reason they traded up in the draft into the first round to take him.
You know there's a reason why they've been begging this man and flying all across the country, showing up unannounced on his doorsteps. You realize that he had to call the Malibu police to get him out of his subdivision. You do realize that.
I don't realize
So why
that.
they want him back? If you got your, hold on.
He's got one good year left in him.
Weezy, this is what I don't understand. If you got you a new boo, why you over there bothering the ex? Why you showing up at her job?
Okay.
Why you showing up at her place? You got you a new thing.
How about the X being 1-4 in NFC Championship games? You love that?
But she happy. She happy. She got her a new one.
Really?
The Denver Broncos.
Yeah.
She about to have her a new thing.
Really?
Leave y'all bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Wouldn't it be funny if the Packers were better than the Broncos next year?
I bet that don't happen.
Well, Wayne, I don't know what to tell you about your Packers. I really don't know at this point. At least you got the Suns. You got Chris Paul. Congratulations to you and your friend, and hopefully
Thank you,
we'll check
Wayne.
in with you again throughout
We
the
love you.
finals.
Nephew, appreciate that stopping by, bro.
Thank you.
No mercy.
Well, today and now yesterday's MRI showed no structural damage to Giannis's knee after Tuesday night's awkward landing against the Hawks. The Greek Freak is listed as doubtful for tonight's Game 5 as the series is all knotted up at 2 games apiece. And meanwhile, Trae Young is listed as questionable for the matchup in Milwaukee. So, Shannon, who wins tonight?
Skip, I just don't like the way that the Bucks play basketball. They play dumb basketball. They have a decided advantage inside, and they can lay the ball up, get into the paint anytime they like, but they settle for threes. You remember, Skip, after the Bucks swept the Heat, they said, Giannis said, we don't play without food. Well, you played with your food in Game 1, and you did it again in Game 4. And now you got a series, and Giannis is hurt. I'm going to take the Hawks on the road.
Are you? Yeah. Back on that bandwagon.
Nah, don't do that, Skip. Don't do that.
I don't think either superstar is going to play
I don't believe so either.
I'm pretty sure about Giannis, and I'm kind of sure that Trey's going to take at least one more game before he tries to go on his bone-bruised foot.
Right.
I loved the way Atlanta played without him the other night. I'm not saying they're better, but I think they're good enough to go win a Game 5 at Milwaukee without him, because I do like the way they play basketball.
Yep.
They shared it. Cam Reddish is a revelation for them. So all of a sudden, I think they're a little bit better than Milwaukee, even though they've got a Drew Holiday and they've got a Middleton. But Atlanta has a little more firepower even without Trey. So I say they win a game like 115 to 107.
I'm looking for John Collins to have a big day.
And he should. A bounce back game.
All right. Well, it should be interesting. Skip, I'm sorry about your Clippers. Sorry.
Okay,
Good stuff
I'm good.
today, guys. We're back same
You're not
time
good.
tomorrow morning.
I'm good.
The Herd's on now. Have a good one.